This episode of the Grit Files was brought to you by Koya, Performance for Life. Koya combines wearable technology with behavioral science to help you unlock your energy and perform at your highest level. Their coaches have worked with Olympians, Super Bowl MVPs, World Series champions, and other elite performers, and now they're bringing that same level of support to everyday high achievers. This holistic 12-week program focuses on sleep, exercise, nutrition, mindset, self-care, and immune function, blending biometric data with one-on-one coaching and cutting-edge education. You'll receive a wearable like an Oura Ring, Whoop, or Garmin to track sleep, HRV, and activity, but Koya goes beyond data. You're supported by an elite team that includes a dietitian, sleep coach, movement specialist, and mental performance coach, all helping you build sustainable habits that actually fuel long-term performance and longevity. If you're ready to generate more energy and show up stronger in your work, your training, and your life, Koya's built for you. And as a member of the Grit Files community, you get 30% off the program. Visit koya.life to learn more. Welcome to the Grit Files. I'm your host, Laura Reynolds, and today we have one of my favorite humans and a top-notch athlete, Rachel Spaulding. Welcome to Grit Files.
Hey, Laura, it's so good to see you.
You too. Just to give everyone some context as to how Rachel and I know each other, Rachel is actually my running coach, and coaches a number of top-notch athletes. So we're going to spend the day talking a little bit about just the power of staying in a hard situation, what the conversations look like when our bodies want to fail
Yeah.
us and our mind is the thing that gets us through. So, Rachel, your goal of 2025, and I pulled this, but it was to do more things that don't fit neatly into your little box. And you described an era where you're entering into the fun and intensity can coexist. And I love that because you and I have talked about this so many times, but I think athletes have this tendency to want to choose between the two. So
Totally.
talk to me a little bit about how things have changed for you once you decided maybe I can do both.
Yeah, I think, wow, that's a big question. So, okay, I think a lot of it started with, I can go back to even like, I've been an athlete my entire life. So even before I was a coach, I was an athlete as a swimmer. And it was always this like all in mentality where, if you want to be good at something, you have to, put your head down and grind and just focus on that one thing. And not leaving a lot of room for like other fun stuff in between. And I feel like I carried that into my adult life. And, in 2024, I had some health things that kind of took running away from me and honestly just like some movement in general away. So I feel like when it gets taken away from you, you have to figure out a new way to approach it. And you kind of get, and when you get to come back, you have just like this new mindset about it. So I think that's where it really like stemmed from.
Yeah. And I think for our listeners who don't know, Rachel is a long distance runner. We just completed the 130K in Barcelona, taking away second place.
Bariloche.
Yeah,
Bariloche.
Bariloche.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Second place. And like the same time last year, maybe it was getting closer to 2 years ago at this point, but there was a moment where like that was not even in the cards for you. Like things
Yeah.
were so tough
Totally.
with health and all of the things that was like not even something that you could have pictured for yourself. So
Yeah.
what happened in that moment of, oh my God, I think we might be done here. Like, and I'm sure some imposter syndrome going on too a little bit because your business was coaching athletes. So like if you're questioning,
Totally.
will I ever run again? How do you coach someone through a similar moment?
Yeah, yeah, it was a really interesting time. Let's see. I mean, when I was running that race in Patagonia, I mean, it was a full year ago that I was like sitting on the couch, not being able to run, having a lot of health issues. So it really, like just like you said, it really was a full circle moment there. I think the biggest piece for me was it really forced me to a few things. It really forced me to figure out my identity outside of being an athlete. And if you've never had to go through that experience, I
Mhm.
encourage you to do it before you have to, and it's
Yeah,
forced upon you.
yeah.
But that was the biggest thing for me during that time frame of like, okay, who is Rachel outside of being a runner? And it's funny because I always think that I thought I knew what that looked like when I left my swimming career, and turns out I didn't. I just turned it into something else into being a
Yeah.
runner. So I was really forced to just like figure out a lot of things like as an athlete, but then also like how I was just living my overall like life and what that looked like. And it really forced me to like just make some changes. And I think too, I always say that the universe really gives you like what you need. And I think it was like withholding running from me until I like figured it out, right? Until I figured out like how to, yeah, just these little things, how to identify outside of being an athlete. And then to your other question about like being a coach during that time, I will say it actually, interestingly enough, I really leaned into that helped me like with my other identities of like I'm a coach, I'm a business owner, I'm like an entrepreneur. Like those were some big like words that I never used to identify as, and I
Yeah.
think that really helped my process. But it also solidified my this like idea that like I really am doing what I want to do because even when my running looked really poorly and wasn't going well, like I was still really excited to do my job. And so yeah, I think that spoke like really loudly for me.
Yeah. And it's funny, I'm sure you can, I mean, you basically just said this, but like I've noticed it in my own coaching journey is like sometimes you're not even aware of the fact that you're like in identity crisis until you're helping somebody else build theirs. And you're like,
Totally.
oh my God, like it forces you to go inward because you're asking these questions of your athletes. You're causing them to pause and causing them to be like, okay, well, who are you outside of this? Let's like take
Yeah.
running out of it for a minute. Like, who are you outside of it? And I'm sure in asking that question of other people, there was a moment where you're like, huh, who am
No,
I
I was. I
outside
was
of this?
like, I didn't know. Yeah, even though I did have this business that was building and I had like these other things around me, I feel like it still was really hard. So yeah, I think leaning into just other areas was really good. And during that time when, running got, I call it running like got taken away.
Yeah.
I really leaned into my business and I feel like
Mhm.
that's when I had like my most growth and was able to like have what I have now and so I'm really grateful for that time if you have to like I don't try to silver line every single issue that I have but
Right.
I think like I needed to go through that to like continue to like heal to move forward and to like be successful in like other areas of life and I think now like I'm in 2025 I had a pretty good running season of my own and I think that
Yeah.
comes from just like figuring it out, right? Like
Yeah.
holding things a little bit more loosely.
Yeah. And I actually pulled a quote that I think you had mentioned one of your runners had put in their running log. And it's actually for the viewers that can't see, I have a board behind me. And the quote is, it's hard because hard. It's not because you're
Yes,
not like strong enough or good enough. It's just
I
hard
love that
because it's
one.
hard. And I think um something that I've realized and in my conversations with you offline and just like as a friend, I think we've had a lot of conversations around the fact that like I think we have fallen into this illusion that growth is going to somehow feel good when it's happening, you know? And it really very often doesn't.
Totally.
It feels the opposite. There's like a lot of pain that's associated with the type of growth that's necessary to actually move into what feels most aligned to us. It requires losing some things. It requires um, going much more inward and maybe being quiet and detaching a little bit to really figure out who it is that
Yeah,
you are. So I
totally.
love that quote from you because I think we have gone and touched on that so many times. Is like, it actually is really freaking hard
So
to
hard.
figure out who you are. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, you think that you have it figured out and then it like throws another curveball at you. And I think it's like this
yeah.
like evolving thing too, and you can never really stay too complacent or comfortable with who you are. And sometimes you just have to reinvent yourself. And I know that's something that I've done like in my life of just, yeah, just reinventing yourself and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's no perfect time frame for that either. I think people want to put a timeline, especially I think women maybe get this a little more than men just because they're like, oh, by 25, I want to do this. By 30, I should be on the trajectory to get married. And then by 35, like I need to have had kids or I need to have done this. There's
Totally.
like hard and fast timelines for women, I feel like. So you get stuck in this mentality of like, that might be beyond me at this point, or that might not be possible. And for anybody who doesn't follow Rachel already on social media, like she's going to blow up the idea for you of what's possible in a really short amount of time.
Oh, thanks for saying that. That was really kind.
Yeah, I think it's just the decision to grow. It's the decision to like move through the pain.
Yeah. And I always think too that like talking about identities, I always feel like growth is just like such a big part of like my identity and like who I am. I mean, I literally created a business on helping other people grow,
Yeah.
right? So like, and I think without that growth piece, I get really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Truthfully, like I almost need it and crave it versus people like to nest and be the same. I
Yeah.
think I almost like at this point in life, I just like need that growth piece. But I think too, balancing it with being okay with like where you're at as well,
Yeah.
right?
You
So it's
actually
kind of
have
just
a
like have to hold them both so like loosely and balance them, and it's so hard.
Yeah, and you talk about how you and Hannah have this like reoccurring conversation that happens
I'm
between
so
the two of
insightful.
you.
Thank you.
Plugging Hannah, all good. You're next, girl. Um, but the push and pull of wanting more while you're also appreciating where you are, that is such a real feeling, especially if you're in the endurance space or in the athletic space, is
Or in the
like,
business space, right? Or
yeah,
even like
like
having your own business, like
yes,
for
that
sure.
entrepreneurial mindset is like there's always you wake up and you're like, what more can I take on today? How much more pain can I put my body through? How many more miles can I actually log here today? Or how much more strength can I do this week? So how do you, for somebody that's kind of in that chapter right now or in that phase where they want to push themselves as hard as they can possibly go, how do you still appreciate where you are and show up where you are for yourself at that same time? Like, how are you balancing that?
Oh, that's such a great question. I feel like one thing, and this might not directly answer the question or not, but that's okay. But I think one
Right.
thing that I do and I encourage my athletes to do, and when we're talking specifically about like athletics, is I love writing it down. So like when you do your hard thing or your workout or your run, and like you either write it in your like for my athletes, I'm telling them to write about it in their training log, right? And like you write it down and you just like let it go, right? Like you write down the good, bad, and ugly, and then like once it's in there, you let it go and you walk away and you move on. So I think it's like when you're in the thick of it, you're the runner, you're the athlete, you're thinking about it, or when you're working, right? You're the business owner and you're thinking about it, but then like you have to be able to turn it off and just like, right, go do the next thing. But going back to the training log piece, I love that part because like I do think it's this thing where, like I said, you put it in the log and then you just have to move on with your day. But what I love to athletes to do is like go back to it when they're in like that thick place or that tough place of like, oh my gosh, I'm not growing, I'm not getting better. It's like, well, look at this
Yeah.
collection of like information we have that you are getting better. Like writing down like when there were good days out there, when you did push through this interval or when you did run this certain time, right?
Right.
So just like having that reflection piece, I think can be really helpful.
And just like general awareness, like it's always interesting for me to see, like in the moment when I'm finishing the effort, I write it down really quickly. This is how I felt. This is what happened. This is what didn't feel great. And you don't really think about it. But then when you do have like a down moment where you're trying to identify data points to figure out like where was I mentally that day? Like what was going on in my day that caused that dip? Or how did I feel
Yeah,
that day? And
totally.
usually in a run, a bonk that happens like mentally, a lot of the time for me is tied to actual physical fueling. Like, how was I
Right? And
fueling
if you write
myself?
it down, we can go
Yeah.
back and look at it, right? And like, so
Yeah.
that's something and like I said, I think it can go further than athletics of like, I don't know, when I'm like feeling really confident in my like business or my work, I'm like, I'm writing notes down. I'm like, okay, what is it that's making me feel good? Is it like that I got a new client? Is it
Right.
that, I got a good review? I'm making somebody happy, someone had a successful race. Like, what is it that's making me feel like I own my position, right? And that's
Yeah.
like such a big piece for me too, is just like owning your position, owning your identity.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love having things to like reflect back on.
Yeah. And I think too, we get into this like, I am so guilty of it. I'm sure all of us that are in this space, I mean, really, all of us, I think, need this reminder across the board. But like, rest is work too. And you have to like
Mm,
program rest. It's not something that is like, oh, if I get the time to take it, I'll do it. It's like, no, the fibers in your body have to literally rebuild. And like, same
yeah,
with your nervous system. When something good, bad, or whatever happens, your body needs like a programmed reset to actually like recover and be
yeah.
able to better perform in the
Oh
next
yeah,
effort. So like how
totally.
important is it to you and in your coaching practice to really program these rests for people?
It's much easier to program rest than to take rest.
Oh, agreed.
But
Hard, hard agree.
one thing I do with athletes is like, especially my long-term clients and athletes, it's like in the beginning of the year, we really look at the year as a whole. So like, making sure that, I have some people that are training for races, like they're thinking about races in September and October.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we're going to be like going hard until September from now
Yeah.
until the fall, right? So like really like talking about like having these ebbs and flows in training. I think that's most important is just like really mapping it out and planning it because like if you don't plan it, it's not going to happen type thing. And
Right.
I'd say that pretty much all of my athletes have at least like one full actual rest day in their programming every single week, including myself
Yeah.
actually. And I think it's like a good day, like physically, yes, it's a good day to like allow your body to like adapt and actually absorb a lot of the training that you've
Yeah.
put in. And then I think too, like I like to look at them as like mental rest days where it's like you kind of need that mental reset so then you can go out and like push for for like that upcoming week, right? I
Yeah.
think about that a lot. And then even like after races and stuff, it's like we're not resting just to like recover and adapt from the big stimulus, but we're also resting to like get excited about the next goal.
Yeah.
Without rest, you tend to burn out. And I think personally, I think I have it down in my athletic career. I think I have it down in other athletes' athletic career. I'm still figuring out in my business of when to really implement rest. But yeah, it's definitely easier said than
Yeah.
done.
The business side, I will say, I agree with you. It's hard because you don't have a boss that's like, all right, it's time to clock in or it's time to clock out. Like
Totally.
there's no hard and fast scheduling. Like you really have
Yep.
to get good at time blocking for yourself because it's easy to come sit down with your latte in the morning and be cranking out emails and doing all the marketing for
Always.
yourself. And like there's always something. And I mean, at least for me, I don't have an
Yes.
administrative assistant just yet,
That's
you
what
know,
I,
so like
yeah,
it's me.
exactly, right. Not yet, not yet. But
Right.
no, that's what I always tell people. It's like, and I love my job. I love my
Yeah.
schedule. I think it works really well for me. But I think one of the challenges is like, yeah, my job's never over. There's
Yeah.
no like, there's not like, oh, I finished this project. Now there's like a little break or like, there's no one picking up the slack if I don't do something
Right.
type thing, it's just you. And that personally does work really well for me. I always say too that like my athletes and my clients, they're kind of like my bosses.
Yeah.
And so I really gauge like their reviews, their feedback about like their programming. Like I
Mhm.
take that really personally. And I think that helps me like make sure that I'm continuing to give the product that I offered from the very beginning.
Yeah. You talked about the business piece, so now I want to kind of go down that path because I'm sure we have some similarities in this. But starting something on your own, and now how long are you now in business for yourself? This would have
It's
been,
been like 5.5
I
years.
was going to say, you're getting close to the
Yeah.
6 year mark.
Yeah,
So
but I've only been doing it for 2 years, like
like full time.
full time with no
Yeah.
other little side gigs. I was doing that for a while, and I'm sure we'll dive into that. But
Yeah. For people that are building or considering going out on their own, what can you say have been some of like the biggest challenges that you didn't anticipate having to navigate while you were building?
I think the biggest one is probably just like financial insecurity.
Yeah.
But like, and unfortunately, like I am in a place where I feel really good about what I've built, but I think nobody talks about like that insecurity part, at least in the beginning, of just like, having some ups and downs, like in your income. You're not always having the most like stable paycheck type thing. I think that's probably obviously the hardest one, but I think too, the other one is just like I think probably the emotional load that it takes to just like create something, right? And I create it from the ground up and also like having some changes throughout, like just because like I'm not the same coach as when I started 5, 6 years
Yeah.
ago. I don't offer the same product I did. I don't offer the same prices, right? Like it's okay and it's okay to change, but I think like the change piece can be really like challenging.
Yeah. And even as much as you're going through like an identity or a search for your identity and yourself, like there's an element of that where you're doing that for your business too. And like that
Oh
can
yeah,
pivot
for
just as
sure.
much as you pivot personally.
Especially as the
Um,
sport changes and what people's
yeah.
needs are and what the economy looks like, all these
Yeah.
different types of things. There's so much like to like factor in there, but yeah, it's I think it's good to just make sure that you're open-minded about that it can change and that's okay. And I think what I've learned during those changes is transparency is like your best friend.
Yeah.
And people will be loyal and respect that.
Yeah. You had a post recently that I identified really closely to, because I'm in it right now. But you talked about this element of having to do some cringy things in order
Yeah.
to build your business. I feel
Totally.
like anybody that has started or been involved in this entrepreneurial journey can identify with that, especially now when social media is like good, bad, or indifferent. Like it is the way that you reach people and you get your clients and you tell your story. What let's let's talk about some of the cringy things that we've had to do so that other people feel seen in the
Cool.
times that they have to do these cringy things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
what
yeah,
has
yeah.
like felt really cringy in the moment when you're doing it, but you've been like, if I didn't do that thing, I wouldn't be where I am.
Oh, yeah, that's such a great question. Wow. And I think too, I use the word cringy so loosely because like you're
Yeah,
right. In the moment it felt cringy, but at the end of the day, and like even when I've talked to other people, they're like, oh, that doesn't seem cringy.
right.
It's
Same
like
here.
this like insecure. But one thing that I did when I was really first getting started is I sent so many cold like call type messages out to people. This is like very early on and I'd be in like Facebook groups or like on Instagram and if someone posted something about like any type of interest of like having a coach or running or their goals or anything like that, I'd like reach out to them and I'd,
Yeah.
explain myself and, I offered, at that time I started a little bit smaller, like price wise and
Mhm.
right, just like reaching out to people and being like, I want to coach you and like doing your elevator pitch, honestly, which is also so scary.
I know. I
And then
know.
I think, so I
Literally
say that,
practicing it in front of the mirror. I'm like, wait a minute.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that was probably like just talking to strangers and
Yeah.
selling myself and also being very okay with getting rejected. Um, right? And like I think, every like 100 messages I'd send to somebody, I'd probably get one or two back. That's a very high that's not a very high ratio, but
Right.
um I will say that I do have some clients on my roster that they came on during that quote cringy phase and they're still with me and they've been
Yeah.
like a huge part of like my growth and building my business. And I'd say the other one is like leaning into social media. Before I really like was full in on my business, I wasn't really active on like Instagram and that type of stuff. And I just was never really into it. And I think I've learned that you kind of have to. I mean, it's free.
Yeah.
It's free marketing. It's like,
Yeah.
if someone's reaching out to you, if you're someone wants coaching, like they're going to look at you, they're going to look at your website, they're going to look at your Instagram, that type of thing. I don't think you have to be an influencer to be a good coach. I'm definitely not an influencer by any means.
Yeah.
But I've learned to like share, share wisdom on there, share like what I'm doing coaching wise, share my own personal journey and that type of stuff. And some people resonate with that. And yeah, it's just been like another way to like market as like who I am because at the end of the day, like when you have your own business, you kind of are like I am my product, right?
Right.
I am what I'm selling, which is also really cringy to say,
No,
I feel like,
I
right?
know.
Like I right, like I am the product, right? I am the coach. So um but I think it's just getting really comfortable like putting yourself out there
Yeah.
is like the biggest like piece, like just the most blank way to say it. Like, yeah, you just have to put yourself out there and be
Yeah.
okay with people not wanting you and yeah, and that was really hard.
Yeah. I mean, and personally for me, I had a really hard time. Like my business account on Instagram started with like just quotes. And unfortunately, like people they can't see you and the data doesn't lie. Like what lands are reels, videos, pictures. Like people want to see that this is a real person that's
Yes.
experiencing this
Especially
thing
in the
that they're
world
yeah.
today with like, things being AI and like I've even had
Yeah.
people ask like they're like, "Do you use AI for your coaching?" And I'm like, "Not to like program and like talk to you as a human." No. So
Right.
like you're right. People do want to see like that real human touch, I
Yeah.
believe.
And it's hard, like it's a hard balance because when I first started putting my face on my posts, I was like, oof, this feels like, I don't know. It just felt weird, like I didn't consider myself to be an influencer. I didn't want to be the person that's like taking a selfie everywhere that I go. I wanted to show up authentically. But I really do think, at least for me, like when I watch your story and some of the authentic things that you've shared, it does land better to see like where you physically are as you're navigating this thought process or even just speaking to the problems that you've had. Like that is the world that we're in where I don't know if it's COVID that really changed it or it's just the natural like coming around of the world, but people are craving that connection to somebody that is in a shared experience with them.
Yeah,
And I
totally.
think, it comes with the territory. You do have to put yourself out there.
You
So
do. Yeah, that's the biggest one. And I think too, one thing I also learned, and maybe this is more of a side tangent, but like it's okay to like not know all the answers.
Yeah.
While you're like in the thick of this process, whether it is as an athlete or a business owner or an entrepreneur, like I've learned that like I don't have to be the smartest person in the room every single time. And like I can admit that and I can ask questions. And I think over time that has made me a really good coach and made me like really good at what I'm doing.
Yeah. And I think just as much in the athletic world as just in like real life, we are all in this place of becoming something else, like until we die, we're becoming something different every day. And our daily interactions could change the trajectory entirely. So I think just to have somebody that can articulate what becoming looks like, if there's even a small chance that I'm going through something that somebody else can resonate with and I'm helping them to get through it, I'm like all in on that. So that's kind of,
Totally.
at least for me, that was what made me okay with putting my face out there and like doing the cringy thing because I'm like, someone out there is like crying on their bedroom floor, being like, I'm never going to survive this thing. I'm never going to find who I am outside of this horrible situation that happened, or I don't know what my next chapter looks like. If I can help that person to get up out of off their bedroom floor
Totally.
and like just walk out the front door for some fresh air, man, you know what? I've done my job. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really powerful being part of like people's journeys, honestly.
yeah,
And that's like I think that's definitely like a really cool spot. Like and it's never this linear thing and it's never like always like cookie cutter and looks really pretty, but
yeah,
like when you I don't know, I think it's really cool when you help them like get to that end goal and you're like a part of that process.
yeah. You had a quote, and I'm going to read it directly because this is one of my favorites, and I think it's
Oh,
one of your
good.
favorites too. Um, but for somebody that is, becoming, and you're scared about what is next, and you can't totally envision what it is that's on the other side of like you're done with this with who you used to be, that for sure, but you're not sure what the next part looks like. I love this quote that you had posted recently. It says, always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable
Mm.
of going in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting.
Yeah, I
I
love that one.
freaking love that one because
Yeah.
I am the one where I get a little too deep and I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing that. That feels highly
I think
uncomfortable
I
for
like
me.
to personally, I think I like to live in that deep water, in that deep end. I think it's like almost a toxic trait.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that that's so true. It's like if you haven't quite figured it out, the answer isn't to pull back and to like do the safe thing. It's why don't we see what's in the water? What can we do that's a little bit further? So how do you encourage somebody to take that next step of, don't do the safe thing? Like it's gonna feel scary. Let's see what else is out there.
I think, at least for me, one of the things that really helped me was like being more vocal and like saying it out loud. And yeah, I think that even goes back to like that identity piece too of
Yeah.
being like just like saying things out loud more versus like holding it in. So whether it's like saying your goal out loud or like saying, yeah, like I am a business owner, I am an entrepreneur, like
Mhm.
having like just being more vocal about it, but then also too being vocal about like I am doing a hard thing and it is scary and it's uncomfortable. And I don't think we have to like internalize that. And I think too, it's okay to ask for help and to find people like, right? Like I'm helping people get into the deep end every single day with like their goals, right? And they hired me or took me on because they don't want to do it alone. And I don't think
Yeah.
that's a bad thing by any means. And truthfully, I believe in that type of model so much. It's also why like I have a coach for myself, right?
Right.
We all need someone kind of like being like holding our hand and walking us into the deep end or like helping us be like getting some floaties for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think that that's huge. I was so resistant to asking for help, and for anyone who's considering asking for it, it is a breath of fresh air to have somebody be able to point out a perspective that you may have never seen or give you an idea that you may have never thought of because there is such a thing as like analysis paralysis. You've been stuck in this hard spot for so long that you've kind of like lost sense of up and down, and it literally could be somebody who's not even 10 years ahead of you, but somebody
Totally.
who's, you know, 2 weeks ahead of you even could
Yeah.
help in a situation like that.
Yep.
Um,
Totally.
there's no shame in asking someone for help. Why not? It's kind of like if somebody's run a 100 miler before and they can help you get through it and you've never run one, why wouldn't you pick their brain? Don't be
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I even do that with coaching where like going back to like not being the smartest person in the room, like I'm constantly talking to other coaches, like, we're picking other people's brains, seeing what they're doing. It's all people are there to help. And like you can't, I think too, if you have one person saying that they know all the answers and like their way is the way, you should
Right.
probably run.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I completely agree. Um, we've talked about it a little bit. We've alluded to it, but I want to spend some time talking about your coaching practice and what it is that you have built. Because I'm a fan. Hi, I signed up for it. So she sold me, the cringy thing sold me. Um,
love that.
and outside of coaching, you're just a phenomenal friend and just a great support system and just a light to the world. But I want to talk about Right Mind Running Company. You've built it with Emma Paxton. You are the running forward piece. Emma's more kind of the strength piece. But I love that, your platform is not just straightforward. I'm going to give you a running log and, we're going to figure out what your next running effort is and we're going to do that. Anybody can do that, right? AI can do that for you. But you are really full body, full mind, full soul coaching. So talk to me a little bit about just the basis of Right Mind Running, how it came to be, and what it's all
Yeah.
about.
Oh my gosh. So, yeah, I love my business.
Yeah.
But I think it started, so my coaching background goes back 7, 8 years at this point. After college, I coached college level swimming. And then I coached like high level club swimming. And then like as my personal passions changed from swimming to running, I realized like I want to be in coaching, but like I don't have as much running experience. And so I really like going back to cringy things, like really just tried to sell myself. I'd like, talked to a lot of other coaches that were in the running world. I eventually got a job working like as a head coach for a cross country team for high school and middle school. So that was fun. But yeah, just like really did a lot of like in-person coaching. But
Yeah.
one thing that was really challenging that I wanted to do was like I wanted to give these people like my full attention all the time and help every single person and like all these like make it so individualized, but when you have a group of 50, 60 people,
Mhm.
you can't make it as individualized, right? So I feel like my business kind of stemmed from like that type of idea and that work that I was doing. And so it started with just like, I remember I saw one girl online. I raced her at my like first 100 miler and she was talking about like, oh, I don't have a coach, but I would love one. And I messaged her and I was like, I would love to coach you. I was like, I have no experience.
Shoot your shot.
And I have no, yeah, this is like 6 years ago now. And
Right.
I was like, I have no experience coaching people in this like space and like, but I would really love to coach you if you like give me a chance. And we actually ended up working together for like 2 years. And then I was most recently working with her again. She actually came back on as a client. So she was my very first one. Um, and yeah, so it kind of started from there and then like word of mouth and then then you get another person reach out and you're like, "What?" And but, during that time period, I wanted to go all in, but I was really scared. I feel like I set up these like metrics in my head of like, okay, I need this many clients, I need this much for my income, and then I will go all in and I will
Yeah.
quit my job. And so for a long time, like, I started my coaching business when I had a full-time job. And then like eventually I was doing some part-time jobs. And then eventually I was like nannying and running around. And
Yeah.
but what I realized was once I got to a certain point, they were almost holding me back. Those like things were holding me back. And so once I finally like quit my last part-time job at 2 years ago at this point, that's when I really started to see the growth. And that was the scary part. That was the going in the deep end type
Yeah.
part too, where it's like, oh my gosh, like we're letting go of like a lot of the safety net here. And yeah, so it was really hard. But so yeah, I kind of just started building it and changing it and reaching out to people and people started finding me. And yeah, it's been a journey. And then I added Emma last year. She's been a client of mine for like
Yeah.
3 years as a runner, which has been really cool. And I had this idea where, talking about not being able to do it all. I was giving like some like, basic strength plans to my athletes when I first
Yeah.
got started, but I was just like something I just couldn't keep doing and like manage and give a good like run product too.
Yeah.
So I brought her on. So we kind of have this really holistic approach where it's really nice. Like she is, doing the strength training plan. We're like communicating monthly of like, hey, this client is doing these races and like this is where we're at and that type of thing. So just like adding more people onto like an athlete's team, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
I'm not the only person on someone's team. They have their run coach, they have their strength coach, and maybe they have like a physical therapist on the ground or like a mental health performance coach like on the ground, like that type of thing, right? Just creating this like holistic team where it's not just like one person helping them get to their goal. So, and then, but yeah, I really like focusing on this like individualized, like whole person type approach. I think that's been really important, like a pretty important pillar, like in my coaching system where, I always tell people like, no two plans look the same, right? And, we're doing this like to make it fit in, like I want the training to fit into their life, right? Not control it. So that's
Yeah.
something I always like talk about too. Especially because I'm working with people that have jobs, they have kids, they have big lives. Like they do not just identify as a runner, right?
Yeah.
So trying to help them figure it out to get to their goal. And that can always look unique. Like, some people are younger and they have like all the time in the world to train outside of their job. And then, I work with one woman, she's a nurse and she has two kids. And like some days, like she's like works 12. So some weeks she can run 3 days a week, and some weeks she can run 2 days a week, and some
Yeah.
weeks she can run 5 days a week. So like we're constantly like playing around like with what we have access to. So her plan looks obviously very unique.
Yeah. Well, and I know you had mentioned recently pursuing a certification so that you can train specifically like perimenopause and menopause athletes too. It's like
Yeah.
a huge conversation right now. When I saw it, I was like, this is a genius move because this is such a
Yeah.
huge conversation that's really starting to blow up. And people don't realize like how taxing that phase is just to show
Yeah.
up endurance
And
wise,
it's
you
different. Like
know?
I don't train a 50-year-old female the same way I train a 25-year-old
Right.
female. It looks different. Like you need, we could get into the science if we had to, but like you don't need as much training volume. You need to put intensity in there. Right. There's so many just like different
Yeah.
factors there. And that's where some of the subjective feedback comes into play too, where it's like, how is this feeling on your body? But actually I'm always really happy to say like I coach, a handful of people that are in their like 40s, 50s, and almost 60s too.
Yeah.
So I think that also just shows that like you can do this at any age.
Yeah.
It's okay if it looks different, right? It doesn't have to look the way that a 20-year-old trains, but you can still do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you for, run coaching, strength coaching, how can they get in touch with you? How can they,
Yeah.
what's the ideal
Uh,
athlete? You don't have an ideal athlete, I feel like. You're kind of like whoever's willing to try. But
Honestly, it's so funny. Like, first to answer your question about where you can find me,
right.
Instagram is great, or my website, right, Mind Running Company. So yeah, you can find me on either of those, and I'm always happy to chat. I always do like, consultation calls too to make sure
Yeah.
that we are a good fit, and like not just for me, but also for the athlete. But going back to what you just said about having an ideal client, I think that's another thing that is like changed is like when
Yeah.
I did first start, it's like I will take anybody, like right. And it's like whether you're all in or you're not all in or you're gonna be here for a few weeks, like I feel like at this point I'm always looking for people that like want to have that like long-term growth, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like sure we can work together for 3 months, but imagine what we could do when we have time for like 6 months or 12 months or
Yeah.
and so at this point I have clients that have been with me 3-4 years, and that's where you really start to like see the magic and the growth. But I think truly an ideal client is just someone that wants to engage and just like you said, that wants to like get better and try. And it's okay if you try and it ends up not being for you, but like that try piece is like and so important. And especially just like being open-minded like in that process.
Yeah. And you just spoke to something that I think might be worth putting out there for people that are building a business. But I did that same thing where when I first started, because of the financial security piece of it,
You're
like
like,
you
yes,
really, yeah,
yes.
you take everything. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you can relate to this, but like some of my like lower lift clients, like the ones that had invested in like the lowest coaching package, were some of my like high, like I had to put most of my time in them. I'm like, this feels crazy. Like this isn't sustainable. Um, so I think it is a sign that you're growing both as a coach, but just as an individual to be able to kind of refine who that client is and to be able to
Totally.
say no when it doesn't make sense, because that was really hard for me at the beginning. Like knowing as I'm speaking to somebody like, ooh, I want to be able to say yes to this financially because that would make a lot of sense financially for me. But
It makes
I
sense,
like,
right? Like more
yeah,
clients equals more income. But yeah, and I even talk about going back to like a challenge in your business is like, oh my gosh, you have to figure out how much you're worth. Like
right.
how much is your product worth? And
Uh,
you are your product?
yeah,
That's terrifying.
it's so terrifying. And like, obviously, we're the type of people I feel like where if we could do it for free, we would, because we have that much joy in being able to help somebody through something that we wish we would have had help through. And
Totally.
like I would do it for free in a heartbeat if I could like keep my gas on, and keep the
Yeah,
house warm and like keep food on the table. But
totally.
you have to put a price on something. And the reality is people aren't buying coaching packages. Like that's really not what it is. They're buying a transformation. Like who are they
I
going to
love
be on
that.
the other side of this journey? And I think that that's one thing that I'm passionate about in my coaching business, but I feel it in yours as well. Is like think of this if you're thinking of investing in a coach, think of this as the transformation that you're investing in. Like
Oh, I love that. I might have
you're
to use that.
hey, take it, girl. We're here to help each other. But like it's not about, can Rachel get me through this one race that's coming up? It's like how can you help to change their mindset of
Totally.
who they're going to be when these hard efforts happen? And it's outside of a race. I mean, I've learned so much from you just from when you're in a hard effort in life. What are you going to do? And like permission to pivot. You don't have to have
Pivot.
on,
Yep.
so I think that that's a huge sign of like you're growing in your space if you know when to say no. And with you even bringing on Emma, like, could you offer the strength piece? Sure. But is that where you're going to be the most valuable? And like, is it going to be what's the best option for your clients? I think you decided no. So like, let's get
Totally.
somebody who really can fully go all in on that. So building an extensive referral network for me has been something too, where it's like, hey, I'm hearing what you're needing, and I would love to be able to provide that support. I don't feel good about me being the best one to do it, but here's Rachel who can, or who's Emma who can. Like, it's
Yeah.
so important.
Right. I think, yeah, so much to touch on there, but I think one of the biggest things is like, one, it's okay to change your mind. Like that's
Yeah.
like so important too. You don't have to believe in the same thing that you believed in when you first started your product or your business
Yeah.
or whatever. And like that's okay. But I think too, what you were just saying of like it's okay to like not be able to give something to someone. Like, right? Like I do remember
Yeah.
when I first would get on these consultations calls, like, oh yeah, would you do strength? Yep. Oh yeah, can you do nutrition? Yep. Like, yes, I was a yes person. Yes, 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 I can do that. I'm
You're like
like,
Googling
wait,
in the
like
background of how to provide all these things.
I'm like, wait a
Nutrition.
second. That's exactly. I'm like, that is not my scope. Like like I'm an expert in run coaching. Like
Right.
I feel really good about that. And like, yes, I help with like nutrition when it comes to like intra-run fueling, but like that's not my expertise. I'm not going to give you like
No,
a
because you
meal
fuel with
plan.
Power Bar, everybody. So no.
Yeah. Old school.
But you had mentioned a quote that is tied to Daisy that I loved, that I think is a good sign off quote for everybody. But you said that one thing that Daisy has taught you is that she doesn't need a reason to be happy. She just decides that it's the best day ever. And you have started to
Ah,
apply that to your life. And I think that is such an important message to somebody is like, you know, there doesn't need to be a specific thing that happens today to allow yourself to be happy. You can just decide that this is going to be the best day. And it can be in the
yes.
middle of a really shitty season in your life, and you can wake up the next day and be like, actually, this is going to be the best day ever. So,
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you pulled that one because yeah, that is something that sticks with me. I do feel like I wake up like every day and I'm like, is how do I like make this the best day ever, right?
yeah,
Like, and even if it's just like a small piece of the day when the whole other part of the day is on fire,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
she really does help like me lean into that too. So
I can say wholeheartedly, like if you are considering run coaching or even strength or even just need somebody to like give you a pep up talk for the day or a good like latte spot recommendation, Rachel's your
I can
girl.
do that.
I mean,
I can do
it's
that.
and
I
it
can do
really
all
is.
those things.
And
Thank
it
you,
really is
Laura.
like full body, mind, and soul. I think it's just so important that if you're gonna go into this coaching space, it's not for the money, right? Like that comes, but it's for like you're all in on watching somebody's transformation and helping them to lean into that transformation. That's really what this
Yeah.
comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. And I think yeah, I'm very fortunate like where I'm at, but I also like I wouldn't use the word that I'm lucky. Like I know that I built everything I had from
Yeah.
like the ground up, which is also exhausting, but really cool to be on the other side.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Rachel, it has been such an awesome conversation with you today. I could have you on here for 6 hours and I think we would still like not run out of things to talk about. Um, So I want to thank you for making the time today in the space today to come on and talk to the Grit Files. Before you
Yeah.
leave, we do something with all of our podcasts because it's a gift back to the listeners. It's a gift to all of our guests that are here, but we created a Grit Files playlist. So, what is your go-to song at the starting line? You're getting ready for like this race that you've trained for the last 6 months. You want to get into the right mindset. What's the song you're listening to? Who's the artist?
Oh my God, I feel like it changes all the time. But
Same.
for me, it's more of like for a workout. Oh, I like Fox on the Run by Sweet.
Yeah,
Like
it's a good one.
I like older music, so
Yeah, I've noticed it in some of the posts. I'm like, huh, that's different. I'm like in your face, like a NF, like rap. Like I need it like yelling at
no, I don't need
yeah,
that.
you're like
Yeah,
a
I need some more like I need fun, but not nobody should yell at me.
yeah, I know. See, that's where it's okay to be different. So,
Exactly, exactly.
Rachel, it's been a blast, and I look forward to having you in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Laura.
All right, this is the Grit Files, and this is Laura Reynolds signing off.